Mike, by all accounts, the draft was a success for the Buffalo Bills. They're getting great grades across the board. What stood out to you?
That they were able to stay in their spot and get the guy, at least when they looked at the draft, that I think they really wanted. We had gotten a chance to talk to him the day before, and what struck me about Ed Oliver was how positive he was about Buffalo, which we don't always hear. A lot of times guys will give you a little lip service and all. Right away he went into, loved the scheme, went to the facilities. Buffalo would be a great spot. Like, he was all in, and then the next day they sat there and waited. Because if you'd looked at the last two drafts, they traded back, Patrick Mahomes' pick, and then the next year, they got Trey White. So again, when you look at it on draft day, 2 years before, they won the transaction, but ended up, giving up the spot with Mahomes. The next year, they traded up twice and ended up getting their quarterback and the linebacker. In this case, stayed where they were, got a guy in the second round that most people thought could have gone in the first, that was at the draft, that was thinking he was going in the first. So from that perspective, I think they did really well. Of course, we all know the next step is, can these guys actually play? But everybody is looking at the same thing. So grades should be positive. Value-wise, they did really well.
It's funny, the grades kind of sort of line up along the way with the guys who were making the grades.
Yeah.
And you're just saying, well, they agreed with us, so they must have done well.
Yeah, so that's just it. I mean, Ed Oliver, great. He fell to you, fantastic. Can't fault you with that. Even the offensive lineman at 2, you need the offensive lineman. What I don't get is how, after what we watched last year, knowing where the holes in this team were and seeing what was free agency-wise out there for you, you didn't take a receiver?
Yeah.
You didn't take a single receiver. In fact, I thought it was mandatory that you take a receiver in the top 3 rounds. You took a running back before you took a wide receiver, and then doubled down by coming out, Brandon Beane, the general manager, we're not separating ourselves from LaShawn McCoy. That's like the 7th time he said that, right? What are you going to do? Opening day. There's a kid they signed from the CFL who's a big, tall receiver. Are you that confident in him being your big body?
Yeah.
I don't get. Then the tight end, I want to say Dixon Ward. What's that kid's
Dawson
name?
Knox.
Dawson Knox, yes.
Yeah.
I think, did you overthink that one? Did you try and outsmart yourself? Because he had like 7.5 catches in college.
And hasn't had a touchdown since he was a junior in high school.
Exactly.
Right, so he's not a productive guy. To your point about the wide receivers, I would say when you look at what they are going to put out on the field, obviously they've improved from a year ago. It would be almost impossible to not improve on what they put on the field a year ago.
Well, is that neglect in the draft, or is it a vote of confidence for the free agents they signed?
I think it's a little bit of neglect in the draft. Look, I think they looked at it and said, we have a lot of needs. They went with offensive line. To your point about running back, I find that to be very interesting. And no, they keep sticking up for LaShawn McCoy. But if we look at it backwards, and so at some point McCoy's not on the team, and you say, well, they brought in Gore, who's a veteran. They brought in TJ Yeldon, who's been around in the league, and they drafted a guy in the 3rd round. How many signs did you need to say that they were going to part ways with McCoy?
Well, then why keep defending him? They treat him like he's a first-round quarterback that is a little scared that he's going to lose his gig. He's a running back. They're the most dispensable. And by the way, when it comes to being a locker room guy, from what things we hear every once in a while, not exactly the guy you want in that room for the kind of thing they're building.
Now, the other point about even wide receivers and everything, it is still, as much as it is still only May, and a lot of transactions take place. And there are still teams that have made drafts, brought in wide receivers. There's still going to be players that are available to them, whether in trade or guys that get released from other teams. But yeah, size-wise for their wide receivers, they got a small group they're putting out there.
A very handsome, smart, bearded man said on this show months ago that if Robert Foster is a key piece of your wide receiver core starting in 2019, you're going to have serious problems. And as of right now, Robert Foster is a key piece of your wide receiver core.